Spicy ladies, you've been giving men the wrong compliments your whole life. You've been giving men the wrong compliments your whole life. And the worst part? They're not even hearing them. In fact, most of what you're saying is making zero impact. But today, I'm giving you 10 forbidden compliments that flip a hidden switch in his brain. Compliments so powerful they make him feel a magnetic pull toward you. And only you. Most women think men only want to hear they're handsome or strong. But here's the truth. Men remember the words that make them feel irreplaceable. When you tell him, "You make me feel safe in a way I can't explain," it's not just a compliment. It's an imprint. And when you casually whisper, "You're not like anyone I've ever met," his mind replays it for days. These aren't empty flirts. They're emotional anchors. By the end of this video, you'll have a secret arsenal of compliments that make a man light up like no one else can. Before I reveal all 10, tell me in the comments, what's the one compliment you've given a guy that made his face completely change? I'll share the most powerful ones in a future video. So leave yours below. A woman who knows the weight of her words never needs to raise her voice. Let that settle for a moment, my friends. Because in a world where everyone is shouting to be noticed, the most unforgettable women are the ones who don't make noise. They shift the atmosphere just by being there. That's the kind of energy we're stepping into today. This isn't about playing games, memorizing lines, or forcing chemistry. This is something deeper, something ancient, something every high-value woman carries within her, whether she realizes it or not. So, before we dive deeper, press that like button and hit subscribe. Not for me, but for the version of you that already knows she's done chasing love. She's ready to become unforgettable. Right now, if you're still watching, I hope this video can help you. Your comments motivate me so much, so I can make more videos which you like. So hit that subscribe button and leave me a message. Let's continue. Imagine this, the power of feminine presence. Hey, ladies, imagine this. You walk into a softly lit room. No one notices you at first. No dramatic entrance, no noise, no performance. But the moment you step in, something shifts. Like the air changed, like the lighting adjusted without a switch being touched. That's what feminine presence feels like. You didn't say a word, but something in you landed. Now, compare that to what most women have been taught their whole lives. Be sexier. Be cooler. Be chill. Don't be needy. Say something flirty, but not too flirty. Text him back fast, but not too fast. Don't show too much interest, but don't be distant either. Exhausting, right? You're not alone. You were handed a script written by people who thought attraction lived in performance. But true connection, real memory, doesn't live in noise. It lives in vibration. You don't need louder words. You need words that land. Let that echo for a moment. Because the women who stay in a man's mind, the ones who truly live in his memory long after the moment is gone, they don't say more. They say it differently. With calm, with a kind of soft command that doesn't ask for attention. It draws it. This isn't about seduction. It's about imprint. It's about creating quiet waves in his subconscious that replay when he's alone in traffic, when he's lying in bed, when he's walking through his day, and suddenly you flash across his mind. You don't make that kind of impact by being agreeable or easygoing. You make it by knowing who you are, what you bring, and how to use your words like music, not just noise. Let's be honest, most women aren't overlooked because they aren't good enough. They're overlooked because they were taught to shrink, to second guess, to soften their truth into something more digestible, to become polite echoes instead of bold voices. But that stops here. Today, we're flipping the script. You're going to learn how to speak in timing, in texture, in quiet confidence. You're going to learn how to make him feel you before he even understands why, and remember you long after the words have faded. You're here to be felt, not just heard, because you're not here to be chosen. You're here to be felt. You're not here to play it safe. You're here to make a man pause mid-sentence, tilt his head and wonder, who is she? So stay with me. We're just getting started. And trust me, what comes next will change how you speak, how you move, and how you stay on his mind. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Not because you need more content, but because you're ready to remember who you are. Let's go. The most magnetic women don't perform. They evoke. The most magnetic women don't perform. They evoke. A woman who performs is remembered for a moment. A woman who evokes is remembered without explanation. That's the space we're entering now. Because let's be real, so many women are out here performing, crafting the perfect message, practicing what to say, rehearsing when to laugh or when to hold back. It's like you're auditioning for a role in a play called Love Me Maybe. But the truth is, he's not looking for performance. He's searching for a pulse, something real, something unexpected, something he can feel. And that only comes from presence. Picture this. Picture this with me. Two women walk into the same room. One is polished, perfect, her smile rehearsed, her charm preloaded. She compliments. She flirts. She laughs at all the right moments. She's magnetic for a minute. The second woman. She says almost nothing at first, but her presence is still. Her eyes carry depth. Her posture speaks before her mouth does. And when she does talk, it's slow, intentional. Like every word she speaks costs something sacred. Guess who he can't stop thinking about later? Guess who lingers in his imagination? The one who wasn't performing. The one who was simply being. Performance schemes the surface. Presence sinks into the subconscious. You don't need to be clever. You need to be congruent. You might wonder, but if I don't say something clever, won't he lose interest? That's a lie you've been taught. That you need to impress a man to keep him. That you need to be witty or charming or smooth. But impact doesn't come from charm. It comes from truth. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, not who you were trained to be, not who you think he wants, not the watered-down version of you designed to keep the peace." You don't need to be clever. You need to be congruent. Your voice matching your truth. Your words in sync with your energy. That's what hits. That's what lands. Ever notice how some women talk endlessly, but leave nothing behind? And then another woman says one sentence and it stays with you? That's not vocabulary. That's vibration. When a woman speaks from grounded truth, from clear, calm alignment, she doesn't just enter the conversation. She enters his nervous system. Most men won't even be able to explain it. They'll just say, "She felt different." Not loud, not polished, just real. This is your reminder to stop overdoing it. Stop layering yourself with charm and effort and performance. You don't need to be the most interesting woman in the room, just the most true, because performance fades, but presence lingers. Are you speaking to be heard or to be felt? So ask yourself this. Are you speaking to be heard or are you speaking to be felt? Because what's coming next is not about clever lines. It's about the language beneath the words, the pause behind the phrase, the moment when he leans in, not because you were perfect, but because you were profoundly real. Stay with me. What you're about to learn next will change how you speak to a man's subconscious, and why you don't need noise to make him echo with your presence. Most words don't land because they only speak to his ears. Most words don't land because they only speak to his ears. But real impact, the kind that speaks to his memory, doesn't respond to logic. It responds to feeling. It reacts before the brain even catches up. And that, my friends, is where so many women get it wrong. They speak with politeness when they should speak with presence. They talk to his head when they should talk to his gut. You were raised to be clear, be nice, be safe. You say things like, "How was your day?" or "I really like you," thinking that being direct means being close. But here's the thing. Logic doesn't stir the heart. It doesn't fuel desire. And it definitely doesn't keep you replaying in a man's mind at 2 a.m. Because real attraction, the kind that sticks, lives in the part of the brain that doesn't speak English. It speaks image, emotion, symbol, the magic of symbolic language. Here's a metaphor. Imagine an old radio. You're turning the dial, trying to find the right station. Most women are speaking on a frequency that only schemes the surface. But when you shift the dial just a little, when you speak in sensation, in softness, in suggestion, you land on a frequency that cuts through. Suddenly, he's listening without even knowing why. That's the magic of symbolic language. So instead of saying, "I like you," try something like, "Something about you makes the chaos feel quiet." Boom. That doesn't just land. It lingers. It's not about making perfect sense. It's about making deep feeling. You might wonder, but what if he doesn't get it? He might not, but he'll feel it. And feelings stay way longer than facts. You're not here to explain. You're here to plant a seed, one that blooms when he least expects it. Carl Jung also said, the psyche is image, not words, not bullet points, but vivid emotion. So when you speak in metaphor, in grounded sensuality, in imagery that whispers rather than shouts, you're not just talking. You're imprinting. You're not trying to impress. You're leaving a trace. Because it's never just the words. It's the emotion underneath, the picture they leave behind. That's what rises up in him later. Suddenly, unexpectedly. Like a scent he can't name, but doesn't want to lose. The shift from linear to layered. This is your shift from linear to layered. From obvious to unforgettable. From a woman who speaks to a woman who lingers. And now we're going deeper into how to craft these moments on purpose without sounding poetic, fake, or too polished. Because once you learn to speak in symbols, even your silences start to echo. Stay close. This is where it gets alchemical. The power of symbolic speech. Say less. Reveal more. Words that touch the heart don't beg to be remembered. They become part of the memory itself. That's the secret of symbolic speech. Most women want to be understood. Magnetic ones want to be felt. Because when you speak in images, metaphors, and quiet invitations instead of plain facts, you're not just talking. You're creating an imprint, a moment that doesn't just exist once, but stays quietly pulsing in the background of his mind. Imagine it like this. Have you ever caught a scent? Maybe it's cologne or the smell of a certain kind of wood burning. And suddenly you're there, not just remembering him, but reliving the way your chest stirred before your brain caught up? That's exactly what symbolic speech does. It's scent memory, but made with emotion. So when you say something like, you and me, that's the kind of trouble that only gets better with time. You're not just flirting, you're painting. You're handing his imagination a brush and letting him color in the scene. And that's what makes it stick. Because when a man imagines himself in a moment with you, he's already halfway inside it. The beauty of symbolic speech. The beauty of this is that it doesn't require poetry, just presence. Instead of, I had a great time, you say, that night was the kind of memory you pull out when you're stuck in traffic and need a reason to smile. Instead of, I like being around you, say, you got that kind of energy that slows the world down. Simple, vivid, suggestive, not needy. You're not asking for feelings. You're leaving a breadcrumb trail for his heart to follow when he's alone, asking himself, why can't I stop thinking about her? And that's the thing. It's not about getting a reaction. It's about building a feeling he wants to revisit. Now, I hear you. Won't I sound like too much? No, love. What's too much is the way the world keeps trying to shrink women. Less emotional, less intuitive, less vivid. But not you. You're not here to dim. You're here to refine. You're not saying more. You're saying deeper. Symbolic speech creates a moment two people can sit in. It's small enough to whisper, but rich enough to remember. This is your shift from surface to soul, from sentences to sensation, from words he reads to feelings he can't shake, compliments that hit the soul. And next, we're going deeper into the compliments that hit the soul. Not the surface, not I like you, but here's what you didn't know I could see. 3 compliments that don't flatter his ego. They awaken his essence. Most women are taught that complimenting a man means praising his looks, his achievements, his effort. But real feminine magnetism doesn't puff him up. It reflects him back to himself. It doesn't say, you're so great. It says, here's what you didn't realize you're showing. And when you mirror something deeper, his energy, his stillness, the weight of his presence, it doesn't just land, it imprints. Because now he's not being admired for what he does. He's being felt for who he is. Forget you're so smart and say, you think in angles I never would. I love that. That's not just admiration. It's intimacy. Instead of you're calm, say, you make calm feel electric. That's not just observation. It's transformation. And here's the one most women never think to say. The way you lead with softness, that's rare. Men aren't used to being seen that way. They're trained to lead with strength, force, confidence. So, When a woman sees the warmth beneath his control and names it without teasing, questioning, or trying to fix it, that moment stays. He may not show it, but trust me, he replays that line more than once because you didn't flatter his surface. You recognized his frequency. You didn't stroke his pride. You echoed his essence. And that's what lingers. The importance of authenticity. You might wonder, isn't that too deep too fast? These kind of compliments only work when they're felt real, rooted, not tossed for validation, but offered from presence. When you say them with that kind of grounded grace, you shift from being someone he chats with to someone he can't forget. Because you didn't just see the man, you saw the soul behind the man. And now he's looking at you differently. Not because you boosted his pride, but because you named something sacred he forgot he carried. This is where real connection begins. Not in flattery, but in resonance. You want to be unforgettable. Stop complimenting what everyone else can see. Start speaking to what only you can feel. The power of your energy. And now let's go deeper. Not just into what you say, but how you say it. Because a perfect line spoken with the wrong energy falls flat. But say it with depth, with stillness, and the entire room changes before any word leaves your lips. Your energy has already introduced you. And that's the truth. Nobody says out loud, but every emotionally intelligent man can feel it. You could speak the most magnetic, poetic, perfectly timed phrase, but if your energy is anxious, needy, or scattered, it won't land. It won't echo. Why? Because energy speaks first. It's the silent current beneath your words. And men, even those who aren't emotionally trained, feel it more than they understand it. Imagine you walk into a quiet art gallery. Soft light, slow music, a hush in the air. Two women stand near the same painting. One's talking quickly, fidgeting, trying to impress. The other's quiet, still, her body calm, her eyes steady. She's not trying to be seen. She just is. Guess who draws attention? Not the one saying more, but the one being more. Because presence carries weight. Your breath, your posture, the softness in your shoulders, the ease in your eyes. That's what they feel before a single word lands. Emotional congruence. This is what I call emotional congruence. When your body, tone, and energy align, that's what makes a man feel safe and drawn at the same time. Not because you're trying to impress, but because you've already impressed yourself. Have you ever said something flirtatious, but your voice wobbled or your eyes darted? The moment didn't fall flat because your words were wrong. It fell flat because your energy wasn't anchored. And men, especially high-quality men, can feel that. They know the difference between a woman speaking from her center and one grasping for approval. You don't need to perform your power. You need to rest in it. Before you speak, scan yourself. Is your breath steady? Are your shoulders tight or relaxed? Is your heart open or bracing? Because if you don't feel safe in your energy, he won't either. And a woman who can bring stillness into a space becomes unforgettable not by raising her voice, but by rooting her presence. She doesn't rush to fill silence. She doesn't chase moments. She lets her being do the talking. Remember this, your body speaks before your mouth does. So if your body's tense, your words will be too. But if your energy is soft, open, and sure, then every word you say feels like it's wrapped in velvet. The art of timing. Next time you're with him, pause, breathe, feel your feet on the floor, let your gaze hold his, but don't grip it, and then speak from there. Because when you do, even silence becomes a sentence. And next, we're stepping into timing. Because the right line said too soon can sound needy, and the right line said too late disappears. But said just right, that's when the spell begins. It hits like pressure. If you wait too long, the energy's gone. The window closed. The spark faded before it could catch. This is the art of when, not just what. Most women focus so much on what to say they forget to feel the rhythm of the moment. But attraction isn't built in the sentence. It's built in the space around it. The pauses, the tension, the tiny shifts in energy. When the room feels lighter, the conversation flows easier and his guard starts to drop. That's not luck. That's the moment. That's your open door. Imagine you're dancing. Not a choreographed routine, but a spontaneous, eyes closed kind of sway. You wouldn't just throw a move at random. You'd feel when the music invites it. You'd listen to the beat, let your body respond. That's what it means to move with timing. Same with words. The most unforgettable line isn't forced, isn't planned. It's dropped like a breeze, sliding through an open window. Soft, subtle, unannounced, but unmistakable. The power of silence. Picture this. You're mid-conversation. Things are relaxed, he's laughing. You're vibing. The moment feels alive. And then you lean in with just the faintest smile, meet his eyes for half a second longer than usual, and say, "You and me," we get into the kind of trouble people write songs about. Then silence, a pause, a shift in the air. You didn't ask him to agree. You didn't wait for a reaction. You just said it like you were talking about the weather, and then let it go. And that right there, that's what lands. Because the magic isn't in the volume, it's in the timing. It's not a pitch. It's a provocation, a suggestion, a spark. But here's where most women go wrong. They say it when the energy hasn't earned it yet. They try to force chemistry before it's breathing on its own. That's when it comes off as trying too hard, pushing for a response, needing him to react. And neediness kills the moment faster than silence ever could. Wait until the energy is warm, open, alive, until he's leaning physically or emotionally, until the space between you feels soft, playful, or just a little electrically charged. That's your window. And when you reach that sweet spot, you don't even need perfect words. You just need the right breath, the right pause, the right calm, because a well-timed whisper slips into his body like memory. Let the silence speak. Now, we're unlocking something deeper. What happens after the spark? Because most women ruin a moment by staying in it too long or explaining what they just said. But the woman who knows how to drop the line and walk becomes a mystery he needs to unravel. Stay with me. This next part is where silence becomes your secret weapon. Let the silence speak. Stop explaining your magic. The women who get remembered know when to stop talking. Let that land, my friends. Because here's the truth almost no one tells you. It's not the line that stays with him. It's what follows. It's the pause, the stillness, the echo trailing the spark like smoke behind fire. Most women say something magnetic and then step on it, explaining, over laughing, doubting, asking, "Was that weird?" Or worse, repeating it to make sure he got it. But the woman who knows her edge says it and lets it drop. No filler, no follow-up, just presence. She allows the silence to carry her message deeper. She lets the stillness do what noise never could. Here's why that works. The masculine mind processes meaning and reflection, not during fast dialogue. If you say something powerful and then stuff the space with chatter, you rob him of the moment he needs to feel it. Imagine tossing a smooth stone into a still lake. That stone makes ripples, but only if the water stays undisturbed. The second you start splashing around trying to force the ripple, it's gone. You've drowned your own magic. And that's what most women are doing with their words. They're not trusting the impact. They're trying to manage the reaction. But the most magnetic woman isn't wondering, did he like what I said? She's already moved on, grounded in the knowing that if it landed, it'll echo. The subconscious responds to symbol, not explanation. Think of it like this. You say, "You and me, that sounds like beautiful trouble." And then you smile. You hold eye contact for just a beat longer. You take a sip of your drink. You lean back. You go on like the moment didn't need validation, because it doesn't. And that's what makes him chase it. Not because you asked him to, but because your energy whispered, you can feel that later on your own time. And later he will, in the car, in bed, mid-meeting. He'll feel that line bloom like a delayed firework and wonder, what was that? And more importantly, why do I want more of it? Because here's the secret. Silence isn't the absence of power. It is power. It gives him space to replay your tone, to fill in the blanks, to imagine you again. And that imagination is where obsession lives. So, stop over-explaining your charm. Stop apologizing for your edge. Stop shrinking your power because you're afraid of the stillness after your sentence. Say it, then rest in the silence, like a woman who already knows she was felt. This isn't about getting him. It's about becoming her. Now, we're stepping into something ancient, The way the subconscious responds to symbol, not explanation. Because if you think this is about clever lines, you're still thinking small. What we're about to unlock is the language his mind forgets, but his body remembers. Stay with me. This next part is where memory meets myth. This isn't about getting him. It's about becoming her. The woman who becomes unforgettable isn't the one who captures him. She's the one who reclaims herself. Let's be clear, my friends. This was never about getting the man. It was never about crafting the perfect line, or striking with exact timing, or saying something that makes his breath catch. That's chasing. And you're not here to chase. You're here to arrive. Because the words you've learned to speak, the calm, the suggestion, the spark, the silence, they're not tricks to catch a man. They're the reflection of the woman you become. A woman who doesn't speak from hunger but from certainty, from vision, not validation, from wholeness, not desperation. You don't say, "You and me would be dangerous together," to impress him. You say it because it's true, and you're no longer afraid of your own depth. You don't pause after the compliment because you're unsure. You pause because you're rooted. And rooted women don't beg. They radiate. This is your gift. Not to chase him down, but to pull him inward, to move his energy without touching him, to stir something ancient in him just by being fully in your own skin. Because when a woman speaks from this kind of presence, she doesn't just attract a man. She activates him to himself, to love, to what's possible when he's in the presence of the real thing. So remember this. You're not chasing connection. You're the connection. Speak like it. Walk like it. Live like it. If something inside you just awakened, if this stirred something deeper than clever tricks, press that like button. Hit subscribe. We're not here for surface. We're here to speak soul to soul. So here's the truth, my friends. This isn't about lines. It's about language. The kind that flows from a woman who knows who she is and no longer performs to be picked. If you felt something shift inside you today, that's not an accident. That's you waking up to your own power. Now pass that energy forward, like this video. Share it with a woman you love. Someone who's ready to stop chasing and start radiating. Because when we rise in presence, we don't just attract love. We become unforgettable. Stay true to yourself. To all the spicy ladies make life beautiful, thank you for watching and God bless.